the Brewers this year, I think I have a great team, but it's the same question that we kind of have every year. And for me, the question is there enough offense? So, Brett, do you think there's enough offense in Milwaukee in this lineup to get them to the top of this division this year?
Probably not. I think when you look, if you're going to go spot by spot with St. Louis and them, for example, you're going to take St. Louis pretty much every time. Now, St. Louis has issues we're going to get to later, most notably like their starting pitching. But when we look at the Brewers, the big question is that offense. And the bigger question, guys, is Christian Yelich. Like, are we going to see the Yelich of 2018? Because if so, then I believe the Brewers have a chance. If not, I'm going to put them in second place by quite a big margin. I mean, this is a very weird division in that it's kind of the Cardinals and everybody else, it feels like. And the Brewers, to me, are maybe that solid wild card pick. I think they still have a bunch of hitters in that lineup, but they just don't have anybody that strikes real fear into your hearts. Wilson Contreras is a nice pickup. They made some marginal moves, but they're still, to me, kind of that league average at best lineup. And I just don't think that they have enough firepower. Yes, they have a good rotation. We know about Corbin Burns. We know about Brandon Woodruff. We know that they can pitch. But let's not forget that the bullpen has considerable less depth than we've seen over the years. I'm probably already skipping ahead 2 or 3 questions here. But to me, I just don't think the offense, which has been the problem, as you mentioned, the last couple of years, I just don't think the front office has gone out and devoted enough resources towards fixing that lineup. I think we kind of need to say, this may be who Christian Yelich is, right? He may not be this power hitting outfielder. This may be him. And if so, I just don't think they did enough to catch the Cardinals at all.
Yeah, no. The weird thing for me about Yelich is that he still hits the ball hard, and he still has good plate discipline. He still does a lot of things right, but he just hits so many balls on the ground. It's the kind of the thing that people said about him in Miami, and he's kind of returned to those days. So I can't imagine that he would hit 30 plus homers. But over time, the offense. Would you be surprised if I told you it was the 11th best offense by WRC Plus? That it was an above average offense last year. Katie, what do you think of this offense? Do you think that addition of William Contreras and Rowdy Tellez, and that sort of over time they can build a good enough offense, or do you think it's still lacking in a couple places?
I think when I pull up their projected starting lineup on Fangraphs right now, we've talked about Yelich, and like we talk about the Brewers every year. Is their offense enough? We also talk about Yelich every year. Is he going to be similar to what we saw? I don't even want to say his MVP caliber form, but something that is maybe even a little less than that. I think the Brewers would gladly take. But I'm looking at their 2 through 5 hitters. Willy Adames, I think, is relatively underrated in terms of a national scale. I like their 3, 4, 5 and Rowdy Tellez, William Contreras, and Jesse Winker. But after that, it really tapers off for me. I think Luis Urias is a scrappy player. I don't know necessarily if he packs that offensive power or punch. But when you're looking at the Brewers offensively compared to the Cardinals lineup, I just think the Cardinals lineup blows them out of the water. And this is, again, another 2-team division. I don't want to discredit what the Cubs have done. We'll get to them, I'm sure. But when you're looking at who's going to win the division, it kind of baffles me that it seems to be so close. I think from a lineup perspective and an offense perspective, the Cardinals really blow the Brewers out of the water here.
Yeah, it is interesting. The projected standings here, on Fangraphs say that the Brewers will win 84 games and the Cardinals 86, and say, it'll be a tough division, just like you're saying. I really want to pick the Brewers because I think that this offense is getting better. I think Willy Adames was really good. I thought the William Contreras deal was really good. I think they make really smart, like picking up Winker for very little was, I think, also really good. I like a lot of the decisions they make, but I kind of agree with you guys. I mean, we're looking at, Garrett Mitchell, Tyrone Taylor, or Brian Anderson, Luis Urias at the bottom of this lineup. And if it isn't going to be a lineup that has an MVP type person in it, then those 3 need to all be above average. It needs to be the kind of lineup where everyone's above average. And I'm not sure that's going to happen. And then on the pitching side, yes, they've still got Burns, they've still got Woodruff. Freddie Peralta could come back and be great this year, but I don't see the same depth that they've kind of had in the past. And, Andy, is it not Andy? It's Aaron Ashby. Which Ashby is it? Andy is this like father. He's Aaron. Anyway, Ashby is hurt, and
It's
and
Aaron.
that's right. Hauser, I believe, was hurt and is like sort of in between being. Yes, he had a groin. It's good, better to have a groin than not. But he is going to be somewhere in between a starting pitcher and a relief pitcher, partially because he has no more options left. So they're going to be playing this game with him. Ashby's hurt. The back of the bullpen, I don't think as good as it used to be. I like Jake Cousins, but then, it's and Matt Bush, but then, Devin Williams throws this crazy. The airbender is, I think, a thing that might hurt him. He gets hurt a lot, and if you just do that with your hand, you just take it and go like that. Ow, everything hurts when I do that, and that's kind of how he gets the movement on the airbender. So, if the Cardinals stumble, I think that's the real thing. The Brewers, I think, will be a solid team that'll be above 500, high 80s, but they're going to need something to happen with the Cardinals, I think, to kind of go any further.
Yeah.
So,
and the bullpen's a great point, because keep in mind, they were like flying last year. Then the front office trades Josh Hader to San Diego, and all of a sudden they go belly up, right? So I think they're not as deep as they've been in years past in that bullpen. I mean, if you're not going to have this great offense that's going to compete with the Cardinals, I totally agree with everything Katie said in going head to head, looking at those slots, then you better have like a ridiculous bullpen, right? So you can win these games 1-0, 2-1. But they just don't have that depth, I feel like, that, the Brewers traditionally have had. So I just don't see how, unless the Cardinals have a rash of injuries, which, not something that's totally out of the realm, because they have had a lot of trouble with some of their bigger stars staying healthy. But I don't see how the Brewers on paper right now overcome the Cardinals. I think they win the division if everything is equal by 5-6 games.
One thing that sticks out for me is I think the league has maybe caught up to some of their pitching aspects. They really were able to kind of identify relievers and back-end starters that they could really do well on. And they've gotten a lot more out of Eric Lauer than I thought any team would. But at the same time, like, their big pickup this year is Wade Miley. He just seems like a decent backup acquisition. So like a sort of back-end acquisition. So I think the league has sort of caught up to them on a little bit when it comes to pitching. And then they just haven't developed a hitter. We're waiting for them to develop a hitter. Bryce Turang, if he could, develop some power, would be a great addition to this team. If Garrett Mitchell continues to get the ball off the ground and maybe make a little bit more contact, he could be good. Tyrone Taylor got hurt and was maybe one of the best hitters they've developed recently. So, if you look at this team, like, all of their best hitters came from other organizations. And, yes, they've developed some talent to be able to go get those in trades. But at the same time, I'm still waiting on them to develop their own hitters, which is weird because that park is like helpful to hitters. It's not like saying Oakland can't develop their own hitters. So, I think you guys are right about the Brewers. They need a Cardinal stumble.